A young blind boy stood alone at the edge of a cold, rushing river, gripping his walking stick with trembling hands. Behind him was a world that had shown him nothing but cruelty. Every day, the other boys in the village laughed at him, mocked him, and treated him like he was worthless simply because he could not see. They never cared about the incredible gift hidden inside him. While they saw darkness in his eyes, they failed to see the light in his heart. And that night, after years of loneliness and pain, the boy finally believed the world would be better without him. But just moments before he took his final step, a mysterious voice called out from beneath an ancient banyan tree, and what happened next would completely change his life forever. Welcome to Lessons for Life Tales, a place where powerful stories reveal the deepest truths about life, pain, purpose, and human strength. Today's story is not just about blindness. It is about the hidden wounds people carry every day. It is about feeling rejected, broken, and forgotten, and discovering that the very thing you hate about yourself may become your greatest strength. So stay with us until the end, because this unforgettable lesson could completely change the way you see yourself and others. And if stories like this inspire your heart, make sure to subscribe and join our growing family for more life-changing tales every week. In a quiet little village surrounded by rolling green hills and whispering trees, there lived a young blind boy whose heart carried a gift far greater than sight. Though his eyes could not see the world, his imagination painted stories so powerful that people would gather silently just to hear him speak. His words were filled with wisdom, emotion, and lessons that touched the souls of those around him. Even the village elders admired the depth of understanding hidden inside such a young child. But while the adults respected his gift, the other boys saw only his blindness. They mocked him relentlessly, laughing as he stumbled through dusty roads, placing stones and branches in his path just to watch him fall. Every cruel laugh cut deeper than the last. The boy tried to stay strong, but loneliness slowly wrapped itself around his heart like chains. Day after day, he sat alone beneath the trees, listening to the distant sounds of children playing together while he remained unwanted and forgotten. At night, he would quietly ask himself painful questions no child should ever have to ask. Why was I born this way? Why does nobody see my worth? And with every passing day, the darkness inside him grew heavier. Night after night, the blind boy lay awake in silence while the rest of the village slept peacefully. The cruel words of the other children echoed endlessly inside his mind, like shadows that refused to disappear. Every laugh, every insult, every moment of rejection slowly drained the strength from his heart. He was exhausted, not from physical pain, but from the unbearable weight of feeling unwanted in a world that judged him for something he could never change. As tears rolled quietly down his face, one painful thought kept returning again and again. Why was I born this way? The more he asked it, the more hopeless he became. Eventually, the sadness inside him grew so deep that he could no longer see a reason to keep living. Early one cold morning, before the village had awakened, the boy grabbed his walking stick and stepped onto the empty dirt road alone. The sound of the rushing river in the distance pulled him forward like a final invitation. With trembling hands and a broken heart, he slowly walked toward the riverbank, believing that somewhere beneath those dark waters, his suffering would finally come to an end. As the blind boy approached the riverbank, the cold morning wind moved softly through the trees, carrying with it the sound of rustling leaves. Near the edge of the river stood a massive ancient banyan tree, its wide branches stretching like protective arms over the earth below. Beneath that tree sat an old monk dressed in simple orange robes, completely still in deep meditation. While the world around him moved with noise and chaos, the monk radiated a strange sense of peace that seemed untouched by suffering. Just as the boy took another step toward the water, the monk slowly opened his eyes, as if he could feel the storm inside the child's heart without seeing his face. "Young one," the monk said gently, his voice calm like flowing water, "why does your soul carry such unbearable pain?" The boy froze. For the first time in years, someone had spoken to him with kindness instead of cruelty. His trembling hands tightened around his walking stick as emotions he had buried for so long suddenly rushed to the surface. Slowly, he walked toward the monk and collapsed beside the tree. Through tears and broken breaths, The boy confessed everything: the mockery, the loneliness, the shame, and finally the terrible truth that he had come to the river to end his life. But instead of judgment, the monk listened with deep compassion, as though every word mattered. The monk closed his eyes for a moment, then began speaking in a calm voice that carried both wisdom and sorrow. "Many years ago," he said, "deep inside a vast forest filled with life, there stood hundreds of tall, straight trees, reaching proudly toward the sky. Their trunks were strong, their branches perfect, and together they formed a beautiful sea of green that seemed almost untouched by imperfection. But hidden among them stood one lonely tree that looked completely different from all the others. Its trunk was twisted, its branches bent awkwardly in every direction. While the other trees stood tall and graceful, this crooked tree looked broken, almost ashamed to exist among them. Every day, the straight trees mocked it without mercy. "Look at you," they whispered proudly through the wind. "You are ugly, bent, and useless. No one would ever admire a tree like you." Their cruel words echoed endlessly through the forest, until the crooked tree slowly began believing them. It stared at the perfect trees surrounding it, and felt deep sadness growing inside its roots. More than anything, it wished it could become straight and beautiful like the others. It dreamed of standing proudly beneath the sunlight, instead of hiding in shame. Day after day, the crooked tree compared itself to those around it, and with every comparison, it felt smaller, weaker, and more worthless. The monk paused for a moment, before continuing softly. "And just like you, young one, that tree believed its difference was a curse." One morning, the monk continued, the entire forest trembled beneath the sound of approaching footsteps. A group of woodcutters had entered the forest, carrying sharp axes over their shoulders, followed by a wealthy man searching for the finest trees to turn into lumber. The tall, straight trees stood proudly beneath the sunlight, convinced their beauty and perfection would finally earn admiration. They lifted their branches high with pride, certain they were superior to the twisted tree standing quietly among them. The wealthy man slowly walked through the forest, carefully examining each agunk before finally giving his command. "Cut down all the straight trees," he said firmly. "Their wood is strong, clean, and valuable." Suddenly, the forest filled with the violent sound of axes striking wood. One by one, the beautiful trees crashed to the ground. The very perfection they had once celebrated became the reason for their destruction. Fear spread through the forest as the crooked tree watched helplessly, believing it would soon share the same fate. But when the wealthy man reached the twisted tree, he frowned with disappointment. "Leave this one," he said coldly. "Its wood is bent and useless. I have no need for it." And just like that, the crooked tree was spared. For the first time in its life, it realized something extraordinary. The flaw it had hated for so long had actually protected it. Seasons passed, and while the proud straight trees were gone forever, the crooked tree remained standing beneath the open sky. Soon birds built nests within its twisted branches, animals rested in its shade, and life slowly gathered around the tree once called worthless. In that moment, the crooked tree finally understood that what made it different had also made it precious. The monk looked gently toward the blind boy and spoke words that seemed to pierce straight into his soul. "Young one," he said softly, "you are that crooked tree." The boy lowered his head in silence as the monk continued. "For years, you have believed your blindness made you broken, weak, and worthless. But what if the very thing you hate about yourself is actually the source of your greatest gift?" The boy's trembling hands tightened around his walking stick as he listened carefully. "Tell me," the monk asked, "when you tell your stories, what do you truly see?" The boy paused for a long moment before answering quietly. "I see emotions. I see pain, hope, kindness, fear. I see what people hide inside their hearts." A faint smile appeared on the monk's face. "Exactly," he whispered. "Your eyes cannot see the surface of the world, but your soul sees far deeper than most people ever will." The monk explained that the cruel boys in the village were the truly blind ones. Though their eyes worked perfectly, they were blind to compassion, blind to wisdom, and blind to the suffering of others. Your blindness, the monk continued, has forced you to listen more carefully, to feel more deeply, and to understand life beyond appearances. That is why your stories touch people's hearts. The boy slowly realized that his pain had shaped him into someone extraordinary. Every lonely night, every insult, every tear had given depth to his words and wisdom to his spirit. The monk placed a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder and said, "Everyone in this world carries imperfections, some visible, some hidden. Never measure your worth by what others see on the outside. A person's true value lives within the heart, not the eyes." And for the first time in his life, the boy no longer felt cursed by his blindness. When the sun finally began to rise over the river, the blind boy no longer felt the same darkness inside his heart. The pain that had once pushed him toward death was slowly replaced by something he had not felt in years: hope. As he walked back toward the village with his walking stick in hand, the world around him seemed strangely different, even though nothing had changed at all. The cruel voices of the other boys still existed, but now, whenever they mocked him, he remembered the crooked tree standing proudly beneath the sky, while all the perfect trees had disappeared. For the first time, he stopped seeing himself as broken. He no longer hated his blindness, because he finally understood that his greatest weakness had given him a gift no one else possessed. Instead of hiding in shame, the boy began sharing his stories more boldly than ever before. And something remarkable slowly happened. People started listening differently. The villagers could feel the truth inside his words, the depth born from pain, loneliness, and understanding. Elderly villagers gathered to hear him speak. Children sat quietly beside him, completely captivated by his wisdom. Over time, the lonely blind boy who once believed his life had no value became one of the village's most respected teachers. His blindness no longer defined him as weak. Instead, it became the very reason his voice carried such power. What he once believed was a curse had quietly become his greatest strength. This story carries a truth that so many people spend their entire lives trying to understand. Nobody in this world is perfect. Some people carry visible scars, while others hide their pain deep inside where nobody can see it. Yet we constantly compare ourselves to others, believing they are stronger, happier, smarter, or more valuable than we are. The blind boy believed his blindness made him worthless, just as the crooked tree believed its twisted shape made it useless. But both eventually discovered the same powerful truth. The very thing they hated about themselves became the reason they survived, the reason they mattered, and the reason they touched the lives of others. And maybe the same is true for you. Perhaps the struggle you carry today is shaping a wisdom that someone else desperately needs tomorrow. Perhaps your loneliness, failures, heartbreak, or insecurities are slowly building a strength you cannot yet see. Pain has a strange way of creating depth inside the human soul. People who suffer often learn how to love more deeply, understand others more compassionately, and recognize truths that others completely miss. So, stop measuring your worth by appearances, popularity, or perfection. Some of the strongest people are fighting invisible battles every single day. What makes you different does not make you weak, it makes you unique. And in a world where so many people try to become copies of one another, your uniqueness is your greatest gift. Never be ashamed of the parts of yourself that life used to shape your character. Those very differences may one day become the reason someone else finds hope through your story. Before this story ends, take a quiet moment and ask yourself something honestly. Have you ever felt like the blind boy? Rejected because of something you could not change? Misunderstood, judged, or made to feel less valuable than others? Maybe you've spent years hiding parts of yourself because the world convinced you they were flawed. Or perhaps, without realizing it, you have sometimes been like the village boys judging someone before understanding the pain they carry inside. Life has a way of testing every human heart differently. Some battles are visible, but the hardest ones are often the battles nobody else can see. That is why kindness matters more than we realize. A single word of compassion can save someone standing at the edge of hopelessness, just like the monk saved the blind boy beside the river. So, if this story touched your heart in any way, we invite you to share your thoughts below. Your story may help someone else who is silently struggling right now. Never underestimate the power of your words, because someone reading your comment today may need hope more than you know. And always remember this powerful truth: your weakness may become your greatest strength. The very thing that makes you feel different today could become the reason you inspire others tomorrow. Thank you so much for spending these moments with us here on Lessons for Life Tales. We truly appreciate every single one of you who watches, supports, and shares these meaningful stories with others around the world. If you enjoyed this video, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another life-changing story. We wish you peace in your heart, strength in difficult times, good health, and happiness wherever life takes you. And remember, some of the most beautiful souls are shaped by the pain they once thought would break them. See you in the next story.